Maria stepped off the bus in a small, snow-dusted town in Colorado, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. At 22, she had left her bustling hometown in Mexico, driven by a dream to build a better life for herself and her family back home. The crisp mountain air was a stark contrast to the warmth she was used to, and as she clutched her worn suitcase, she felt a profound loneliness settle in. Her initial days were a blur of struggles, finding work as a dishwasher in a local diner, navigating a language barrier that made even simple conversations feel like insurmountable obstacles, and battling constant self-doubt that whispered she didn't belong. Every evening, she'd retreat to her tiny, rented room, staring at photos of her family and fighting back tears, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. But deep down, a flicker of resilience kept her going, the memory of her mother's words, "Siempre adelante, mija," always forward, my daughter. One chilly afternoon, while waiting for her shift to start, she noticed a flyer for a community potluck at the town's community center. The idea terrified her, the thought of walking into a room full of strangers, trying to speak broken English, sent shivers down her spine. Yet, something in her yearned for connection, for a taste of the familial warmth she missed so dearly. Summoning every ounce of courage, she decided to attend, baking a simple batch of flan, a recipe passed down from her grandmother, as her offering. As she entered the community center, the room buzzed with laughter and chatter, and she immediately felt out of place, her hands trembling as she set her dish on the table. But then, an elderly woman named Eleanor, with kind eyes and a warm smile, approached her. "That smells wonderful," Eleanor said slowly, and Maria, stumbling over her words, managed to explain it was a traditional dessert. To her surprise, Eleanor didn't judge her accent, instead, she listened intently, and soon others gathered around, asking questions about her culture and sharing their own stories. In that moment, Maria felt a crack in the wall of isolation she had built around herself. Over the following months, she became a regular at community events, slowly opening up and forming bonds with people from all walks of life, a retired teacher who helped her improve her English, a young couple who invited her for holiday dinners, and even the diner's gruff cook who started saving her the best leftovers. Each interaction chipped away at her fears, teaching her that vulnerability wasn't a weakness but a bridge to understanding. She learned to cope with her anxieties by focusing on small, positive steps, like practicing English phrases in front of a mirror or volunteering at local events, which gradually built her confidence. There were setbacks, of course, moments of homesickness that felt overwhelming, or times when misunderstandings left her feeling defeated. But the community rallied around her, offering support without pity, and she discovered an inner strength she never knew she had. One particularly tough day, when she received news that her father was ill back home and she couldn't afford to visit, she broke down in tears at the diner. Instead of retreating, she shared her pain with Eleanor and others, and to her astonishment, they organized a fundraiser, raising enough money for her flight. That act of collective kindness was a turning point. It wasn't just about the money, but the realization that she had found a new family, bound not by blood but by shared humanity. As seasons changed, Maria's growth became evident. She started taking night classes, eventually earning a certification in business management, and with the encouragement of her community, she opened a small catering service, specializing in fusion dishes that celebrated her heritage and local flavors. The grand opening was filled with laughter and pride, as strangers turned friends toasted to her success. In that climactic moment, surrounded by the people who had lifted her up, Maria understood the profound lesson her journey had taught her, that personal growth isn't a solitary climb, but a shared ascent, fueled by the connections we forge. She had arrived as a scared immigrant, but through resilience and the power of community, she had blossomed into a confident, empowered woman, her heart now filled with gratitude and wisdom. Today, Maria often reflects on her story, sharing it with others who feel lost or alone, reminding them that even in the darkest times, there is light in reaching out. Her message is simple yet powerful: in a world that can feel divided, it's our willingness to embrace strangers that transforms them into family, and in doing so, we not only heal ourselves but build a brighter, more compassionate world for all. Break time equals 5s, greater than the morning sun cast a golden glow over the rugged peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountains, where 28-year-old Maya stood at the trailhead of the Whispering Pines path, her heart a mix of excitement and trepidation. As a graphic designer from the bustling city of San Francisco, she had always felt a pull toward nature, but years of self-doubt and the comfort of routine had kept her from pursuing adventures like this. Her motivation was simple yet profound: to prove to herself that she was capable of more than the safe, predictable life she had built. Clutching her backpack straps, she felt the weight of her anxieties, fear of failure, of getting lost, of not being strong enough. The crisp mountain air filled her lungs, but it did little to calm the nervous flutter in her chest. She had planned this solo hike for months, reading guides and watching videos, yet now, faced with the steep, winding trail ahead, all that preparation seemed insufficient. The initial challenge wasn't just the physical climb, it was the mental barrier telling her she wasn't cut out for this, that she should turn back and return to the safety of her apartment. As Maya took her first steps onto the dirt path, surrounded by towering pines and the distant call of birds, she focused on her breathing, a technique she had learned from mindfulness apps to cope with stress. Each step felt heavy, her muscles protesting the unfamiliar strain, and her mind raced with what-ifs. What if she encountered a bear? What if she ran out of water? What if she couldn't make it to the summit? These thoughts echoed the self-doubt that had plagued her since college, when she had abandoned her dream of outdoor guiding for a more practical career. But as she pushed forward, the rhythm of her footsteps began to soothe her. She noticed small details: the way sunlight filtered through the leaves, the scent of damp earth after a recent rain, and gradually, her fear started to ebb. Hours into the hike, the trail grew steeper, and Maya's legs burned with fatigue. She paused at a rocky outcrop, her breath coming in ragged gasps, and for a moment, she considered giving up. Tears welled in her eyes as she thought of all the times she had let fear dictate her choices, turning down a promotion, avoiding social events, staying in a relationship that no longer served her. This hike was a metaphor for her life, a journey toward self-trust. She remembered her grandmother's words: "Strength isn't about never falling, it's about getting back up." With renewed determination, she drank some water, adjusted her pack, and continued upward, each step a small victory over her inner critic. As she climbed higher, the landscape transformed, revealing breathtaking vistas of rolling hills and distant valleys. The physical exertion forced her to be present, to focus on the moment rather than her worries. She encountered a few other hikers who offered smiles and encouragement, reminding her that she wasn't alone in her struggles. One elderly man, with a kind face and weathered hands, shared his own story of overcoming loss through hiking, and his words, "The mountains don't care about your doubts, they just ask you to keep moving," resonated deeply. Maya felt a shift within herself. The fear that had once paralyzed her began to morph into a sense of empowerment. She realized that resilience wasn't about avoiding challenges but embracing them, learning from each stumble. Reaching the halfway point, she faced a narrow ridge with a steep drop on either side. Her heart pounded, and old fears resurfaced, but this time, she didn't let them take over. She took slow, deliberate steps, focusing on her balance and the solid ground beneath her feet. In that moment of intense focus, she had an epiphany: her self-doubt was just a habit, not a truth. She had the strength to rewrite her narrative, to choose courage over comfort. As she pushed through the final ascent, her body aching but her spirit soaring, she felt a profound connection to the world around her, the wind whispering through the pines, the vastness of the sky above. It was as if the mountains were teaching her that life's greatest lessons come from facing the unknown. When she finally stood at the summit, sweat-drenched and breathless, a wave of euphoria washed over her. The view was spectacular, endless peaks bathed in afternoon light, but it was the inner landscape that had transformed the most. She had conquered not just the trail, but the doubts that had held her back for years. In that quiet moment, surrounded by nature's grandeur, Maya understood that true wisdom lies in accepting one's vulnerabilities and using them as stepping stones to growth. She sat on a rock, journal in hand, and wrote, "Today, I learned that the path to strength is paved with small acts of courage." I am capable, I am resilient, and I am enough. The descent was easier, not because the trail was less steep, but because she carried a new confidence within her. She returned to the trailhead as the sun set, her body tired but her heart full. Back in the city, the lessons from the hike stayed with her. She started saying yes to opportunities that scared her, like leading a team project or reconnecting with old friends. The journey had taught her that resilience is a muscle built through practice, and that even in the darkest moments, there is always a glimmer of hope. Maya's story is a reminder that we all have an unseen path within us, waiting to be explored. It's not about the destination, but the growth we experience along the way. So, if you ever find yourself facing a mountain of doubt, remember, take that first step, breathe through the fear, and trust that you have the strength to rise. For in the heart of every challenge lies the seed of transformation, ready to blossom into wisdom and empowerment.